In today's video, we're going to talk about debt collector harassing, oppressive, and abusive conduct. I want to make you aware of how this can happen to you without you even really knowing it. Of course, if they were to harass you in a sense of that you normally understand harassment, you would have, it would be just cut and dry, or they would use oppressive language or oppressive information against you. You would understand it, or abusive conduct, you would understand it. But that's in the sense of what you already know and what you are aware of. In this video, I'm going to make you aware of how it is actually stated legally, because it could potentially be happening to you. Debt collectors could be harassing you, oppressive, or using abusive conduct, and you're not even aware of it because you don't understand how the law is formulated for that to be harassing, oppressive, or abusive. I had I replied to an email from a client that we had helped with a debt collection lawsuit. We had helped him with his summons response. And he was being sued again by the same debt collector that purchased another debt. And he had said, well, Steve, is this harassment? And I said, legally, it's not going to be considered harassment. He considered it harassment because the same debt collector is coming after him, but it's another debt. Even though they lost, we helped him get the other case dismissed. But with this one, they came at him with another case. And I said, no, technically, that's not harassment. But I understand how you feel that you're being harassed by this debt collector who is trying to come after you for this debt. And so what I'm going to do in this video is we're going to, I want to make you aware of what it looks like. What does harassment, oppressive, or abusive conduct by a debt collector, what does that actually look like in the eyes of the CFPB, in the eyes of the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act, so you can clearly understand if this is happening to you. And the solutions that I offer you are concrete. These are tried and true concrete solutions to help you with your credit, to help you deal with debt collectors. And I understand that you don't want any surprises in your life. You want to keep your lifestyle where it's at, or you want to improve it. You want to protect your money. You want to protect your assets. You don't want any surprises or money taken out of your bank account without you knowing about it. And you definitely don't want these debt collectors to be able to just run all over you and do and say things that are not legal for them to do or say. So what we're going to do here is I'm just going to read it to you so you understand it. This is straight from the CFPB, and these are the regulations. And these, now you do see this in the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act, aka FDCPA. But here's the deal, is that, just like I said earlier, because people are not aware of how it can happen, like, we know what abuse and oppressive and harassing is in a sense of dealing with other people, but we don't know the standards of it with the law, with the Fair Debt Collections Practices. How is it applied? What actually is it? And that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. So right now, I'm going to go to, and this is 14A in general. General Prohibition, Section 1006.14A, which implements FDCPA Section 806.15 U.S.C. 1692D, sets forth general standards that prohibits a debt collector from engaging in any conduct, the natural consequences of which is to harass, oppress, or abuse any person in connection with the collection of a debt. The general prohibition covers the specific conduct described in 1006.14b through H, as well as any conduct by the debt collector that is not specifically prohibited by 1006 1006.14b through H. But the natural consequences of which is to harass, oppress, or abuse any person in connection with collection of a debt, such as conduct can occur regardless of a communication media, the debt collector's use, including in-person interactions, telephone calls, audio recordings, paper documents, mail, email, text, social media, or other electronic media. Even if not specifically addressed by 1006.14b through H, the following examples illustrate the rules. So we're going to go into some of the illustrations so you can kind of identify if this is happening to you. Assume that in connection, and this is an example that they gave, assume that in connection with collection of a debt collector sends a communication numerous unsolicited texts per day for several consecutive days. The consumer does not respond. Assume further that the debt collector does not communicate or attempt to communicate with the consumer using any other communication medium, and that by sending the text messages, the debt collector has not violated 1006.14b through H, even though the debt collector's conduct does not violate any specific prohibition under 1006.14b through H. It's likely that the natural consequences of the debt collector's text is to harass, oppress, or abuse the person receiving the text messages, which such natural consequences occur. The debt collector has violated 1006.14a and the FDCPA, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, Section 806. Okay, so I'm going to stop real quick. I want to make sure that you understand this. And can you do me a favor? Can you please like this video right now? Like this video right now. We want to make sure that people understand this stuff. So I'm going to explain it to you. Basically, see, remember when I said earlier, I said that you may not understand that the debt collector is doing something wrong, something that is considered, and I'll go back up to the top here, harassing, oppressive, or abusive conduct. Because you're in the mode of thinking that they're trying to get in touch with you. But the actual means by the way that they're doing it can, and I'll use keyword can, result in the debt collector violating, because the natural consequences of them texting you over and over and over and over and over again is considered harassing, abusive conduct and oppressive conduct. You could consider it that way. So now what you need to do, so think about this every time that you believe that this is happening to you. You need to mark down the dates and time of everything, because I've seen this where you could submit to the debt collection attorney and tell them, hey, this is what I've experienced, and I believe that you're in violation of the FDCPA and Section 1006.14 of CFPB Regulation F. And you let them know that, and then you say, well, this is my call tracking to prove that. If either calls or text, it doesn't matter. They just use this example for text messaging. And the consequences of them texting over and over and over again without a contact, without talking to the individual, can be considered a violation. So now, number two, this is how they're kind of establishing that, is cumulative effect of conduct. Whether a debt collector's conduct violates the general standard in 1006.14a may depend on the cumulative effect of the debt collector's conduct through any communication medium the debt collector's uses, including in-person interaction, telephone calls, audio recordings, paper documents, mail, email, text messages, social media, and other electronic media. Now, depending on the facts, circumstances, conduct that on its own would violate neither the general prohibition in 1006.14 nor any specific prohibition in 1006.14b through H, nonetheless may violate 1006.14a when such conduct is evaluated cumulatively with other conduct. The following example illustrates the rule as applied to debt collectors who use multiple communication medias to communicate or attempt to collect a debt from a person. Assume that the debt collector places 7, remember my 7 and 7. Assume that the debt collector places 7 unanswered telephone calls within 7 consecutive days to a consumer in connection with the collection of a debt. During the same period, the debt collector also sends multiple additional unsolicited emails about the debt to the consumer. The consumer does not respond. The frequency of the debt collector telephone calls during the 7-day period does not exceed the telephone call frequencies described in 1006.14b2i. So the debt collector is presumed to comply with 1006.14b1. Assume further that no evidence is offered to rebut the presumption of compliance, such that the debt collector complies with, and I'm saying this over and over again, but it's very important, 1006.14b1. Assume that for purposes of this illustration example only, the frequency of the debt collector's emails alone does not violate 1006.14a. Nevertheless, it is likely that the cumulative effect of the debt collector telephone calls and the email is harassment. When such natural consequences occur, the debt collector has violated 1006.14a and the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act. So right there, you have enough. Right there, you have enough. So I won't overwhelm you. There's even more. But I don't want to overwhelm you. Right there, you have enough information to look for emails, look for phone calls from debt collectors to see if they're in violation. And if they're in violation, you could simply state in your letter to the debt collector that they're in violation, and you could put these Fair Debt Collection Practices Act Section 806 and 1006.14a of Regulation F, which is a rule by the CFPB. If you need help constructing that, you can always come to us and we can help you construct that. What we do require is that you do have supporting information or supporting evidence. It could be considered evidence, which would be the emails and the calls. So we would know that they are in violation. What could be subject, what could potentially happen if they are subject to have violated the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act 806 and Regulation F, CFPB, Regulation F 1006.14a, is that you could be paid a $1,000 penalty, and debt collectors would rather pay you the $1,000 penalty rather than have this move up and they get some type of sanction to be able to collect debts in your state. So I'm going to end the video there. I don't want to overwhelm you. I think I've given you enough to go look at. And remember, I had made a video probably years ago about the 7 and 7 rule. So what I've given you is some very powerful information on how you can utilize the rules with Regulation F and the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. And keep in mind with the 7 and 7 rule is that they can contact you 7 times using one or a combination of different phone, email, text, all of that stuff, or in writing. But they cannot do all of that and do it an 8th time within the 7 days. That's the big deal. That's what you want to make sure that you keep track of, because that's going to be your evidence. And utilizing that evidence, you can potentially get $1,000 payout because you have that evidence, and you can submit that to the attorney's office and show them that they're in violation and that you have the proof that they're in violation. And they're not going to want to risk any sanctions or anything, so they would more than likely potentially send you that settlement with that. If you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch video what makes us different so you can see my 8-point validation process, my 2-phase settlement process. If you need your credit reports and scores, go to the website your3scores.com. Grab your TransUnion, Equifax, Experian credit reports and all 3 scores. If you have debt collectors coming after you, you can stop a lot of this stuff early. You can go to summonsmaster.com and create an exclusive certified debt validation letter. All you have to do is upload your document, or you can send it to us and we can create it for you. We offer both of those services, do it yourself or the service through us. If you have debt collectors who are suing you, go to summonsmaster.com and you can upload a PDF file of your summons, and it'll create a fully formatted response to every allegation and a defense to help you potentially win your case. And we do have aftercare program and human oversight. So anytime any summons is created, we have a human go in there and look at that to make sure that everything is okay, that you pick the right one also. It can help you with original creditor summons and debt collector summons. Thank you for your time. Subscribe to the channel, post your questions and comments. It's Stephen A. Williams, President and founder of thecreditrepairshop.com.